Hey everybody, happy Monday. I hope you're all doing well this week so far. My name is Angela. I am a life coach for those who don't know me. I'm glad you're here. I'm happy to be able to have you watching today. Today what I want to share with you is 7 ways to protect yourself from burnout, right? I think we talk about this all the time. Those of us who are working professionals, there are times and seasons, particular areas of work where we just get burned out. Like it just gets to be too much. How do we protect ourselves from that? So I want to go over that and just take a minute to share before I hop in the content is, you know, this used to be me. There was a few times in my life actually, where I worked 3 jobs at once. And I tell the story a lot in my group, Women Building a Bigger, Braver Life group. But basically, you know, I had 3 jobs at once because I had these bigger goals. I've always had this big vision, these big dreams, and I'm going to, like, unstoppable, like going to get them no matter how hard it takes for me to work. And, you know, while that's great, having that big vision, there's other things that come with that. And it's really, you know, that concern of burning yourself out. So I remember one of the times when I was working 3 jobs at once, trying to get to my bigger goals, I was getting sick a lot. I'm normally a pretty healthy person, knock on wood, but I was getting sick a lot, migraines, throwing up, calling out of work, right? Like it's just to a point where, you know, I was like, something has got to change. Like, this is not okay, right? And I know a lot of folks are having different issues with burnout. So if you're here live, please let me know you're live or watching the replay. And also drop an emoji or something to let me know, like, have you ever experienced burnout? Do you know what I'm talking about? If you don't, let me know where you work. I want to know what are those burnout-free careers that you got going on. But tell me more about that. If you've experienced burnout, just drop an emoji or say me or something like that. Because I really did. Like I think knowing my symptoms of burnout, they're very physical. So I was getting sick. I was, you know, migraines, the whole thing, right? So eventually I was like, this has got to change. Like, this isn't going to work for me anymore. And so I was able to then follow my big dream, my vision, and say, this is it, I'm going after it. So that was really exciting. Other times when I've been burned out, it showed up in other ways. It was issues with my work, issues with school, right? Like all these different things that impacted because I just couldn't balance everything and be great at all things, right? Like, so that's where it's really hard. So, hey, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. So I want to teach you guys the 7 ways to protect yourself from burnout. So number 1 is organization. So knowing what systems you have in place to keep you organized is going to reduce your mental load, right? Reduce your having to think about or guess or process the things that you need to do. So that can kind of keep you really streamlined, whether that's at work and at home, or work or home or both, right? Like it's really important to make sure that you have the appropriate systems so you feel organized, you feel empowered and prepared to take on the day. You know exactly what's going on, whether that's you know, a system for personal organization, you know, a to-do list, right? I always talk about like what's on your to-do list, how many things you have going on. What does your calendar look like? Is that something that's organized? So how do you get organized in your home life and your work life? And so that's number 1, right? Having these systems is very important. Number 2 is having that vision in mind. So I recently did a 5-day workshop where we talked about everything related to creating your own life vision. So what does that look like? What do you really want to be doing? What lights you up, right? Like really learning these things about yourself, kind of putting a plan together. So that's a really important thing because that can give us the inspiration and the motivation that we need to continue to work, whether that's at a job we kind of have right now in the moment or on our bigger dreams, whether that's making progress toward those, right? So that vision is so important. And then that brings me to alignment, like asking yourself, am I in alignment with this job? Is the environment aligning with my values? And that's, again, going back to knowing what all of your stuff is, right? And that's coming next. But that alignment, like, is this something that I agree with? Am I okay with doing these job responsibilities? I know I've been in jobs where I really didn't like the way that service was provided. And I kind of sucked it up and had to continue because it was a job and I had to pay my bills. And listen, I get it. If you're there, like, I get it. And it just kind of sucks because it goes against that grain. But that's going to be something to be aware of, because that's going to kind of burn you out a little bit faster when you are going against what's in alignment with you, okay? The next thing is knowing yourself and your limits. So this is number 4, if you're counting, knowing yourself and what your limits are. So knowing yourself, again, we need to know what my vision is, or what your vision is, right? What your mission is, what your goals are. Where does this time frame fit into, what you want for your life? And then also knowing your limits. So I know that I can't see clients 8 hours in a row. That makes me so exhausted. I when I go back to my home life, right, like that gets put on the back burner because all I want to do is just go to sleep, or I won't have time to cook, or whatever it is that keeps me healthy and going. Hey, Melissa, thanks for joining. Yeah, so if you're coming in, so glad to have you on this important topic. We're talking about burnout. Put if you're live or watching a replay, but we are talking about burnout. So say yes if you've experienced burnout before. If you want to give an example, great, we can talk about that too. Right now, we've been talking about some ways to protect yourself. So number 1 is organization and systems. How do you keep yourself organized? Number 2 is, what is your vision? Do you have that bigger vision for yourself and your life? Okay. Number 3 is alignment. Are you in alignment with the work environment, with the tasks that you're being asked to do, with the culture, right? What's expected of you. Number 4 is knowing yourself and your limits. So sometimes we learn these things through experience. So, and like I was sharing, there were ways that service was provided in previous jobs that I did not agree with. And again, it's kind of like sometimes you have to suck it up and go ahead until you get to that next place. But those things can teach you about yourself. I used to have a job where I would drive hours and hours a day. I would go into people's homes and support them. And, that was exhausting to me. And that led me to having like a terrible diet, because I would just be like, nope, I'm shutting off. I've had too much road and too much people, and I'm exhausted and I don't have time to cook dinner. So I would be drive through. Like, and that was not good for me. That doesn't align with my life, because I would like to be healthy, right? The 5th one is boundaries. So this is a big one, and I talk a lot about this to clients that I'm working with a lot, whether that's boundaries with your personal life, with your professional life, in romantic relationships. This can show up a lot, and this is really important to get a good hang of. And let me tell you all, if you're struggling with some boundaries, come talk to me, because I will help you, empower you to help you figure that stuff out, because that's one of my passion areas, okay? Boundaries are so important because that helps us protect our energy, and that we need that, right? We need that healthy energy to do the work, right? To do the things that we need to do to have a fun and good and fulfilled life. We need those boundaries. So, I actually have a story about this too. So one time I've graduated from school twice. So one time that I graduated from school, because I have 2 degrees, I was working, and I had asked someone to cover for me, for the time, the day or whatever that I was graduating, and thinking that was all good. It was a busy time in work, and understandable and all of that. And the culture really, was really heavy on urgency and reaction and all these kind of things, right? Like heavy communication, but maybe not necessarily in the right, boundary, portion, right? Healthy way of that. So here I am. I'm sitting in the audience, about to go up to get my diploma, and I get a phone call and I get a text, and it was from work asking me things about things I didn't even honestly know. But I was just like shocked. I was like, what is happening? And I texted back. Like, I answered it back. I was about to go up and get my diploma, and I talk about boundaries, right? Like, no, like we can't let these things impede us so much and be so ingrained that we have to give our soul and our whole life to work that we lose our personal values, right? So my personal value is I want to be present. I want to be intentional and present in what I'm doing, and especially like a wonderful time like graduating, right? Like a milestone. That was not happening for me. So that was a great light bulb moment about boundaries and how they're so important, and you need to be the one to set them. So definitely a lot. I could talk for hours on boundaries by themselves, but yes, that's so important, and that's going to help protect you from that burnout. Yes, Carol, boundaries are so important. It's like, you know, that job actually that I'm talking about was like really, really difficult for me. And I'm like, you know, it asked a lot. So, you know, I was kind of living where I was working, and, you know, that has challenges in its own, but like I could not shut off, you know, the boundaries. It was really difficult for me there. And knowing me, like, I'm like, okay, I need my boundaries. I need to be able to separate things. So that was a very important learning lesson there. Okay, so the 6th thing that we need to do to protect us from burnout is going to be taking breaks as much as you can. So I remember I was working actually pretty much everywhere I work. Like I'm very, like I need to eat. And so I know something's wrong when I'm not taking my lunch breaks. That's like a big no-no for me. Like that's like a whole thing. And I even, like I tell my husband, I'm like, all right, it's lunchtime. Like we need to eat, because he could work through the whole day and go, oh, I forgot to eat. Right. I'm like, no. Like we have to be healthy. Like we have to eat. So, I mean, I would yell at other people at work and say, you need to take your lunch break. Like you're scheduling meetings over lunch and all these kind of things. So take your lunch breaks. Please take your lunch breaks. Take your vacation. I know people who have weeks and hours of vacation, they don't take it. And I'm like, why are you taking your vacation? I remember when I was really, I was like traveling a lot, or I would just take days off or go visit folks or whatever. I would have no vacation days off. Like I was like, let's do that. And I noticed when I was starting to burn out, like when it was getting really bad, I had more vacation days available because I didn't take them, because I didn't feel like I could. I didn't, you know, I was scheduling over my lunches. Like those were the red flags for me. And I saw this wonderful post. I posted it in the Facebook group. If you're not in it, I'll post it. It's Women Building a Bigger, Braver Life. But it was like someone had written like, you know, we sign up for a job for pay and benefits. Like we are not obliged essentially to give our souls over for this, right? Like this is not what this is about. So yeah, this is something really important that I think that we need to talk about more as well, is taking those breaks, feeling like it's okay. Like I remember when I would be sick and feeling like I had to be to work, like I would take a half a day and then go in, because it's like if I took the whole day, guess what, all this work I would have to make up, or someone else would have to take it for me, and then it was like really, you know, then I was feeling guilty about it, right? So taking breaks, and also with breaks and boundaries, like feeling like stepping into your bravery with that. And that may sound like a little extreme, but I'm serious. Like when I'm talking about stepping into your bravery, I know that I had some people pleasing stuff. And if you can relate to the people pleasing problems, please put an emoji, raise your hand, do whatever, put a like or something like that, so that I know I'm not alone, right? But I was into a place of people pleasing. I didn't really consider myself that. Let me be honest. I didn't really consider myself that, because I can pretty much communicate what I want and things like that. But I saw it. It did happen, because when I would not put up the boundaries, when I wouldn't turn the phone off, or when I answered the call after work, or when whatever that was, I didn't have those boundaries in place, and I was afraid to put those in. I was afraid sometimes to take breaks, right? Like, because of what's going to happen if I'm not there to do X, Y, and Z job. And, you know, that's where you have to step into your bravery. And I want to come back to that, because I think that's so important. But this is what I work with women all the time. It's like, what do we need to do to step into that bravery to protect yourself, put the boundaries in, treat this job like it, right? Like the healthy relationship with the job it should be. And live that life that you want to live and that you deserve to live. You deserve to live a restful, peaceful, joyful life, right? And when we don't have the boundaries, when we don't have the breaks, when we don't step into our bravery to claim that, we will get run over, right? Like we're like the hot mess express, we're the struggle bus, right? Like that's where those things come in. It's not cute, by the way, right? It might be funny, but it's like really not, because this is our health and our life and our wealth, right, that we're talking about. Okay, again, I could talk about that all day. The last thing, number 7, a way to protect yourself from burnout is to have accountability. Kate's sharing with us, people pleasing, definitely take a new job without feeling guilty. Holy moly, the guilt. Yes, the guilt. And I think that goes back to, the environments we're in. Like, is this a supportive environment? Is this a toxic environment? Like, what is going on? Is this my stuff? Is this the stuff of the culture, of the job? Like, what is that? So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's super, super important. But the number 7 is accountability. So who's helping you to hold yourself accountable? So sometimes we can go in and we're like, yes, I'm going to set these boundaries. I'm going to, right? And then it falls off. We get it to a period of time. If this is not a normal thing for us, it falls off. If we're people pleasing and then we say, nope, I'm not people pleasing today, that's great. But sometimes that falls off because that's not a regular thing that we're doing in our home life or work life, etc. So I would say number 7, a great way to protect yourself from burnout is accountability. Where can you find accountability? Well, let me tell you, there's lots of places you can do that. There's lots of ways you can do that, and I'm happy to brainstorm them with you. But sometimes it's like finding that person at work. I remember there was a few ladies at work that we just went to each other. Like, this was a thing. We went to each other for accountability. Like, did you take your lunch break? Right? Like, they knew they could find that from me. And also, like, they're like, okay, are you going home at 5? Are you going to stay after and continue to do what you're doing? Gotta go home at 5, right? Like, so there's some people that can be really good with accountability within your own workplace. If you're in a workplace that maybe is a little more toxic or not really, like, maybe they're kind of faking like they care or faking like it's balancy, but no, we're gonna need you, right? That's fine, but how can you then get accountability from somebody within that environment? That might be a little more challenging. So one of the things too that I work with women on is, what's the accountability look like? Is that something that you have a person for? And I think multiple sources are important, right? So do you have a work buddy, right, that you can do that? We also think about it like in your everyday life, like, so I'm my spouse's accountability person for lunches, right? Because that's my thing. We having some lunch. So that's that. Is it, that you can follow, like, your calendar, like, says it, like, do not schedule, and here's lunch, and do not touch this time, and you can follow that. If you're accountable with that and you can follow that, perfect. But a lot of times we need that extra support. And as a coach, as a life coach, I provide that accountability to people every day. So if you're thinking about these things, I'm going to repeat them in just a second. But if you're looking at this and you're like, I need some help because I am burned out, I'm irritable, right? What are the things that happen when you're burned out? You're irritable, you're guilty, right? You're feeling exhausted. All of these things, like, this is not the life you're meant to live, right? This is just not. We don't have to do it. We don't have to. We don't have to work that hard, right? We deserve to have joy and love and peace, right? All of the things, and rest. So this is where, right, the Braver life coaching program that I take women through, this is a great time to get that accountability. So that would be something great. If you want to DM me, please do. We'll talk more about it. Now, I want to go over the 7 ways to protect yourself from burnout one more time, just in case you're popping on. So hey, everybody that's jumped on with us. This is such an important topic, and I'd love to hear your examples or your comments too. But number 1 is organization and systems. Number 2 is setting that bigger vision for yourself. Number 3 is alignment. Are you in alignment with your vision? Are you in alignment with the culture or the tasks that you're doing? Number 4 is knowing yourself in your limits. And that is really important. Sometimes we have to learn this kind of the hard way, if you will, of knowing what not to do. But what are your limits at work? What are your limits at home? What's the amount of sleep that you need? Can you allow yourself to take a full day off and know that that's going to be helpful and rejuvenating to you, right? Like, what do you know about yourself that you need, and how can you give that to yourself, and what are the limits that you're like, hard stop, can't do anymore, right? Number 5, yeah, that was 4. 5 is boundaries, right? Setting those boundaries, stepping into your bravery, being able to hold the boundary, the healthy boundary, and say, no, I'm protecting myself and my energy here. Number 6 is taking lots of breaks. So take your lunch, take your PTO, your time off, your vacation days. And number 7 is accountability. If you have another one that you are like, hey, I think this is really important, please put it in there. Share with the community. I'd love to hear it. But I'm so glad you were able to join me today. Thank you. I think this is such an important topic, and I want to continue this conversation. I'll be talking more about this in the Women Building a Bigger, Braver Life group this week. Thursday night, we're going to be having more of an in-depth interactive conversation, so please join us. Otherwise, have a wonderful week. Take good care of yourself. Take your breaks. I'll talk to you soon.